Hi guys. How you doing tonight? If it's your first time here, I'm Nessie, the guild leader of Sleeping Soul over in ROM Global. Every Saturday night I'm going to try to talk about kind of a topic that can appeal to both veterans and newbies, maybe learn a couple of things. So tonight I'm going to talk mainly about the user interface, some fun stuff that maybe people don't know about. Let's see. Okay, so as a quick follow-up actually to the housing talk that I had last week, I had one of my guildmates, King Street, tell me about a really neat feature, a really cool functional furniture called the Adventures map that actually gives you basically a free teleport. So if you talk to it, you could choose which map and teleport wherever you want basically for free. So I don't know about that one, so that's actually a really cool one. So really the housing, you can pretty much go wherever you need to in the game. Anytime. You know, like we said, if you save yourself in the house and you come straight back here and teleport wherever you want, there does seem to be some limits. It seems to be any map that has a Kafra in it you can teleport to, whereas if perhaps you don't have premium, it's actually possible maybe you don't have access to as many maps as someone else. That I'm not too sure about. But either way, I mean, if you can at least teleport to other towns and cities on the fly, it's really, really cool. So again, today I'm going to talk about the user interface, kind of like some life hacks to get around the UI. I thought it'd be kind of a fun topic to talk about. Maybe there's some stuff that a lot of people don't know about. So I kind of have a list of stuff to go over. So hopefully everyone learns something new. So the first thing to go over is, you know, and I always tell a lot of my newer guildies, newer players, is that the interface is definitely not very intuitive. The interface in the game is not intuitive at all. So the first thing I want to mention is that it is a mobile game, while a majority of players do play on emulators. You have to remember to kind of play with the game as if it is on the phone. So there's a lot of things to do where you can kind of just, you kind of have to press down or drag stuff around. You know, you have to remember that it is a mobile game. The first couple of things I'm going to go over is kind of stuff you can do maybe every day, every play session, and kind of move more to like some extra stuff, some fun stuff. So one of the first things to mention is that a lot of areas have a kind of like an info box. So I'm going to go back to Printera real quick. I think a good example of the info box is the Rune smelter. So let's say, you know, they really don't tell you what each thing does. You know, just looking at the names, they seem very similar. But whenever you find these little eyes or exclamation points, they kind of tell you what's going on in the game. So you can kind of see the differences between each advanced rune option. For instance, rune replacement. And they do give a very basic explanation of what they do. Some stuff sometimes does not come across very coherent. I gotta be honest with you. For instance, if you go to PvP, let's see if you see here. You know, it has very basics, but even here, like you see kind of a, I mean, I guess A is okay, but it kind of looks like it's kind of thrown in there. You kind of have, they try to put some bullet points over here in each section. But if you do go over them, there are explanations for all this kind of stuff. So definitely take a look around the UI if, you know, something isn't very clear. Sometimes they have these sorts of things. Like, let's take a look at this real quick. Like this does not have it, the smelter. So you have to be careful with what you're doing. You know, keep an eye that you're not accidentally smelting something important as opposed to removing a card, for instance. A very common thing that I see people seem to uncover by accident, and I have to admit over a year ago we kind of uncovered it by accident, is the selling and deposit. So I'm going to show real quick. This is kind of from my farm from a couple of days ago. You kind of just drag down the inventory and press sell. You can do this from anywhere. I think the most important places to do this at is anytime you're farming and you're kind of overstocked on all these kinds of, you know, gray items that you get from a lot of mobs that you're farming. And especially Endless Tower. Endless Tower, you get a lot of junk because you're going through floors very quickly, and it's really good to just kind of get rid of all that stuff. The deposit works very similarly. You know, any kind of item that you have already one of in your character storage, it will simply deposit onto the stack. You know, and just take it out of your main inventory. You know, and that way, if you are overstocked, you can kind of get rid of that bag on the bottom. You know, you could pull from that and also continuously just sell, deposit. Keep in mind that it only interacts with your character storage. It does not interact with your deposit, does not interact at all with kind of any kind of shared storage across your account and your alts. So basically it has to be in your character storage. So for instance, if I put, if I put 1 mercury in and get out of that, and I choose to deposit, it's going to put the rest in. So it's definitely great to put, you know, a bunch of junk stuff in the Kafra, and then whenever you're out and about or in Endless Tower, you can just kind of get rid of all that stuff really, really quickly. Be careful that if you are using usable items, like for instance, if you're a priest and you're using blue gemstones, if you have 1 in your Kafra storage, it's going to put all of them in there. So you got to make sure that you keep an eye on what you do need on hand at all times. Also as an AB, holy water is another example of something you kind of don't want at the Kafra. Let's see. So I'm going to move on to something called favorites. I'm going to go back to my home real quick so I can kind of get out of this laggy area. Which I will go over a few tips for that later. So I'm going to talk about favorites. Favorites was added back in the EP5 drop. So you can put it on pretty much anything in your inventory, especially, you know, usable items. And then they always show up in this heart list. That's the second tab of your inventory. It's really good for stuff you use very often, maybe every day. Maybe, you know, you're using meatballs to get your, you know, your merc missions, any kind of grails that you need. Anything you just need on the fly. For instance, this daily item. It's also great to use for equipment. So let's say you just got a quick swap. So let's say I'm about to fight a flute player and I don't want to deal with those ads. I'm going to do that real quick. And then when I'm done, I can kind of just swap back. You know, this does work. Let's see. It should work on double click, but it doesn't want to do that right now. But, you know, it does give easy swaps. You can put equipment on your item bar also for kind of quick swapping. As well as cards. If you gotta swap cards really quickly, you can put them, let's say, put Marduk over here. Now you got your options. Swap it really quick. And that's it. You can put your secondary card also on the bar to kind of quick swap. This is great for places like Oracle, for instance, where, you know, you don't want to be jumping around with your book in the middle of a fight, but you've got a quick swap because of, you know, different mobs coming up, different boss happening this week. It's also really good for that. So But primarily, you know, we're going to focus on favorites right now. Favorites you can also do on the cards. Pretty much anything in here. I used to use it, when I first found out about this, I used to put it on items, for instance, the laser guns, these types of items that are used for guildie quests, just so I know I could always keep track of them. A couple things to know about stuff that's favorited is that you can't accidentally sell them. You cannot accidentally put them on the exchange. They're simply not selectable. Let's see, going over my notes right now. Right, so if something is favorited, also keep in mind sometimes you can't use it for kind of like as part of a repair or reagent for something because, like I said, it is protected from trying to be used up. So if you do want to use it, you do have to unselect it, which is pretty easy. I mean, really, you just kind of cancel it, but you can always just put it back really just as easily. One thing to keep in mind is, for instance, if you have something favorited, you cannot see the actual tradable value of it. So for instance, if I look at my armor, it says non-tradable. If I cancel that, let's see. And then I go back, now it'll show me the actual value of that item. So actually it is kind of a way to also, let's say you have your gear public, but you don't want people, I don't know, to not know the value. That's one way to remove that. They'll just simply see it as untradeable. You can also use the favorites for your friends list. So say you have a couple of people that you're always partying with most of the time, you know, you can kind of put them over here. So you can find them really quickly, and you can also follow. Either way, it's a great way to just kind of, you know, move around quickly, get things done. And I believe, let's check this out real quick. No, I don't see favorites in the pet box. I actually wasn't sure. I figured I would check it out real quick. Let me check this one real quick. Nope. Also not in the food box. But really, it shines mainly in your inventory for the most part. So we're gonna talk a little bit about movement. So, you know, basic movement, especially if you are in your mobile phone, is, you know, you use your thumb to move around. This little circular pathway shows up, you know, shows you what direction you're kind of moving in. Same way if you're on the emulator and the mouse. But, you know, let's say, you know, you're trying to move across the world. So I'm going to go Morocco real quick. Show you guys kind of a quick way to move around, whether it's by the monster or by the map. So I'm in Morocco, but let's say I have a quest that I gotta do, you know, over in Peon Forest. You know, let's say I have not talked to April, I don't have the teleport unlock, but I have been in that map before. So what you want to do is you want to open the mini-map, go to world, click on Peon Forest, and you can just click go. And your character will just start heading there. It's a great way if, let's say, you know, you just can't keep an eye on the phone, you don't want to be, you know, clicking around every single map on these portals. You know, you gotta put the phone down, but you still want to move your character over there. And this pretty much works everywhere. I believe if, for instance, I want to go to Gingerbread City, it will bring me all the way to Aldebaran. I don't believe it'll interact with the NPC, but it'll at least bring me all the way over there. You know, same if I do this, let's say I want to go after specifically Elder Willows. If I click on Elder Willows, it'll just start bringing me in that direction. It also works for MVPs. You know, same way if you look on the MVP list, you know, go. It'll just start walking you over in that direction. So let's look at maps, world maps. And another cool thing, especially, this is good for towns. let's say you're trying to do board quest and training grounds, kind of like those instant things for friendship proofs, and you're not sure if people are on the map. So a great way is to just click on this thing on the top left. And it'll show you, it looks like there's no players in this one. So this is a very terrible example, but let me go to Geffen real quick. And we'll see if I find a populated map to kind of give you a really good example of what it looks like. Yeah, so I've got some people here. So it's like, oh man, who's around? Who's zoned in? Are my friends here? You see their job, their level, and their name. Oh, and their gender. Seems to be a big thing in ROM. And you also see every single NPC. So if I want to go to cat friend 2, let's see. That's also a way to kind of click around. You don't gotta move yourself manually. You know, there are a couple of things like this. Let's see, let's go to teleport. Oh, and apparently you can't, it does show you every single teleporter. So let's say I want to go to Goblin Forest, it'll just start heading you over there. Another thing too is if you want to go to a specific NPC in another town, like let's say, I'm all the way in Geffen, I want to go over here, and I want to go to the teleporter guy. Let's see, does he show up? Now we're gonna go get a haircut, so we're gonna click on Cilia, and it is going to walk you all the way over to that town and bring you in front of that NPC, and also just start the interaction with that NPC to get you started. So that's definitely a way to just kind of get around really quickly in a pinch. I'm gonna go to, let's see. Yeah, we are gonna go to Goblin Forest real quick, and I'm gonna show you some stuff about targeting. Alright. So in Goblin Forest we have a lot of different types of mobs here. So I'm gonna try to not get in the middle of someone else's farm real quick. Okay. So if I do all monsters, you know, that just means it's gonna target, you know, literally anything around me, anything that respawns around me. And if nothing is nearby, it'll just start walking to the nearest spy that it detects, that your character detects. Now, if I want to target certain monsters, of course, I'll do, for instance, like this plant, and I'll pick, let's say, buckler and archer. And I'll just keep going. Now, you know, if you're in a map that maybe has something like star mobs, and you saw one early on, you know, and oh, you want to add more stuff to the list of targets. I used to think you had to kind of start over or find another star mob. You actually don't have to. If you press down on the targeting thing, it's going to let you select and add stuff. And that's it. You know, now it's added more options, you know, that you can target without having to start over and reselect all the stuff that you targeted at the start of your farm. You know, so if, let's say, you know, you've got a base level, you want to add more stuff in the area that now within level you want to take advantage of, you know, that's what it's good for. Otherwise, you could just shut it off anytime. You know, start over if you have to. Another interesting thing is that if you are on all, this shows up as blue. And if you are targeting a couple of things, it's going to change to yellow. So that's also one way, like let's say you're, you know, seeing the phone from far away and you don't know what the heck you're targeting. That's another quick way to know what is going on the screen without having to, you know, click down, see what's going on. Am I targeting all? Am I targeting the correct monster that I was looking to farm with that day? So I'm gonna go back to, let's see, I'm actually gonna B-wing out of here. And I'm going to talk real quick about the hand-in-hand adventure skill. So it's used, you know, you can hand-in-hand other players for certain events, like for instance Zodiac in Frontera. It allows you to do that daily, but you can also do it with, for instance, your pets. And you can kind of carry them around. I do try to use this when I'm in group content, for instance, like Oracle, and since apparently our pets are made out of paper in most instances and most AoE attacks will simply kill them. I do try to use it. It's not 100%. As you can see, she kind of just, I don't know, broke off. So it is a little finicky. I'm not really sure why she decided to abandon me. That's very rude. But it does work most of the time. Another thing you can do is to utilize it with the cats. So I'm going to bring out my cat real quick. I find it really good to use with Wasabi. And there is a message on that one. I haven't had issues with the cats disappearing or abandoning me. With Wasabi in particular, if you don't know his ability to reduce damage, it's basically a kind of short AoE shout that he does that affects you and him. So, you know, if you're about to grind and, you know, you have a smith that kind of needs Wasabi to survive maybe some extra mobs that you're pulling in your normal daily grind session, this is a great way to make sure he doesn't wander around. If, you know, you're grinding and running around and, you know, he might be wandering, he might be stuck in a rock somewhere, as sometimes happens with pets and other stuff, you know, with interactions with the game. This is a great way to make sure that he's always by your side and always getting that damage debuff on you. So I'm going to talk real quick about the Mercenary Cats as well. So let me pull up a quick video. So something they also added around episode 5 was they added timers. Early on, you kind of had to pay attention to when the cats were about to expire. But now there's a timer on both their, you know, party chat kind of box, as well as their detailed description box, as you can see. And when you renew them, it also updates itself. So now it says, for instance, in this example video, the 2 days. Let me replay that. Hold on. I'll just do it with my cat right now. So right now, let's see. Here we go. So we're gonna renew him. And even if you do the 7 days, early on there was kind of, I don't know if I would say it was a bug or a glitch, but you couldn't use mercenary tickets for the 7 days. You can now. But if you use higher, it'll simply just keep adding to the days. If I continuously renew him, now it says 3 days. You know, and like I said, it's also, I'm selling too much stuff. It's also in this detailed description of what Wasabi is about and his abilities. You know, this works for all the cats. Yeah, so let's see. So the thing to talk about is Prepare for Elite. That's another great adventure skill that they added. Let's see if I find my thing. I'm going to swap to AB because it's a really good example. A rather much better example of utilizing Prepare for Elite. So when you have it, actually just to show you, whoops, wrong box. When you go to your skills, you go to adventure skills and it shows up somewhere in this area. So over here, shows up right over there. You know, put it down. When it's on your bar, you press down. You press on these addition signs and you could choose what you want in there. You can do 6 skills at a time. And what it does is it does multiple buff skills at the same time. So you can basically, what's it called? you could do a lot of groupos at the same time without having to single target everyone in your party, everyone around you. And you do have to remember that you do need the complete SP cost available. I mean, it does show you, for instance, the cast delay, the skill cooldown, all that kind of stuff. It is good to use, like, for instance, between waves of Oracle. You know, if there's downtime in Thanatos Tower, for instance, you know, if it's during kind of, how do you say, between phase 1 and phase 2 of first floor, is a good example. You know, the mob is doing kind of like a talk, and you kind of have a few seconds there to maybe rebuff the entire party. It's really good for that, like I said, without having to, you know, reselect every single person. You know, based on your class, it's going to give you different options. For instance, as an AB, it doesn't let me do Aspersio, but it does let me do Gloria, Song, all kinds of other buffs. That's really, really good to have and to, you know, just kind of have on the fly. Let's see. So we talked a little bit about pets before and doing, you know, for instance, hand in hand. So one thing that they did with, in particular, Pet Adventure, was they allowed you to redo Pet Adventure at any time, while, you know, to click do it again at the end of the adventure. So what happens is, you know, it doesn't change the pets that you already chose. So let's say, you know, you chose your pets at the start of your day. You know, it simply takes the cost of your meatballs, depending on your pets. It's 5 per pet. It still deducts your CT correctly. It still deducts the meatballs that you're using. But it's simply just a quick way to do it again without having to look for the pet, and also without having to retarget it. So another thing about Pet Adventure, if you don't know already, is, let me find it, is that when you choose an adventure, you can choose what to target. And what this does is it changes the loot table, and, you know, it kind of focuses on one target at a time. So for instance, if I do Scarecrow, I could possibly get this blueprint or his card. If I do the Tombstone guy, there's a different blueprint and his card's available. So it's a great way to do unlocks. Especially a lot of people utilize the Glass Time Abysmal Knight. It's one of the only ways to get an Abysmal Knight card and to get your unlock. For I myself, it took me probably about 5 months of Pet Adventures. It's very RNG. I have some friends that have gotten several Abysmal Knight cards. I had, let's see, one guildmate I think got one after 2 months. And some people get it after only a few. So of course, you know, there's still the RNG in the game. Let's see over here. You can see another example of kind of these little info markers. You know, yeah, so when, like it says here, when out of combat time, you cannot do Pet Adventure. So another thing to know about that can do it again option is that if you have no meatballs available, your Pet Adventure won't go and it won't collect the adventure that you just completed. If you have no CT, it's going to collect the adventure, and it obviously just won't refresh the adventure, but it will collect. So keep that in mind, you know, if you're not paying attention to your CT, you know, and you go back later and it's like, oh, you know, why didn't this go? Well, you're probably already out of CT anyway. Another quick thing that I just learned 2 days ago. I'm going to open up the Rune Box real quick. Is that these runes, you can actually drag these around. So let's say you just have these in the wrong bubble and it's not, you know, shining, like that one wasn't going, and now I just reactivated my top rune. So you can actually drag this around. Like I said, when it comes to remembering it's a mobile game and dragging your mouse or finger around, was that when the most recent episodes dropped, there's been kind of a very confusing issue, for instance, with the Claim B meal, where it does not show hot meal. but it is there. You just have to drag it down. You know, it is very confusing. I don't know why they decided to do that when it was at the top the whole time, but I promise you it's still there. You can use it and then choose to do it, you know, to buy another one. I think I had another example. Oh yeah, with your skills. Also with holding down and reading stuff, if you look at your skills, if you hold it down, you can, you know, take a look at the description of your skills, the cast delay, SP cost, casting range, all that kind of information at any time. This is a great way to double check, for instance, if you have the correct Acer runes chosen. So if I want to make sure I have things for my Arashio skill, I want to make sure the enhance is there for the reduce M defense. It shows up right there, just like it would if you went to your skills and also checked it out. It shows you all the information right on the screen without having to, you know, reopen your skills, your skill box rather. Let's see. So just a couple of other things to go over. So if you have extra mounts, like let's say you're collecting for your adventure book, and so I'm trying to remember where they are now. Here it is. So under the same screen as the pets, this is where you find your mounts. They do have unlocks. So if you have a couple unlocked and you want to use one on your alt, all you gotta do is actually deposit it. So let's say, you know, I have this one. If I deposit it, I can actually open my handbook, open it on my alt, and utilize it on my alt without having to be a third job. This also works with certain kinds of what's it called? Mech stuff and I believe some knight stuff, but I think there are still restrictions on some of those things. So definitely double check, but I know for the regular mounts, they do work. Always remember you do have to be a third job to unlock a mount. So, you know, obviously you have your main, maybe you're a multi-jobber. You know, you can still choose, you can still put a cool mount on your alt even though he's not that job. It works. You know, mounts are not excluded, or rather mounts are not restricted according to your job. For instance, I don't even own the AB llama, actually. I only have the fox from being a sorcerer unlocked. I do have a couple unlocked. I just haven't bought them yet. So let's see. So mounts to alt. Went over that. Some quick ways to go over and reduce lag on your screen is you can see I don't have a character model shown. This does reduce a lot of lag on the screen itself. Whenever I'm in Thanatos Tower, I always have it shut off. You know, all you gotta do is turn off display character or turn it on. You can also turn off names. This does reduce a lot of stuff on the screen. A lot of chatter. 1 second. Okay. So you can reduce a lot. I've heard of MVPers also reduce pretty much everything on the screen just to get to stuff super quickly. So another quick way to kind of get around, you know, also there is an option to simply fly wing from the map. I actually use this when I'm MVPing, especially minis. I find it's quicker than, you know, checking this tiny map over in the corner. It does give you a little more room to look around. Oh yeah, so focusing on the reduced lag. I suggest turning off peak effect, turning off player characters. You could turn off special effects. I used to leave it on, but now with Dorum and they have that huge pool sitting on the ground most of the time, and it covers up a lot more stuff than it really should. I usually have special effects off now. Those are the primary ones, especially peak effect. I never have it on. Some people do. You could turn yours back on if you'd like. This peak effect basically refers to the aura you get when you do the level 99 quest. You get kind of like your level 99, level 100 aura that is in South Prantera. As far as I know, it's still in South Prantera. That actually could have changed. but I always have mine off. Even if you have display character on, you could put it on low, for instance. And you just get it kind of chooses like your guildmates and I believe your friends before kind of loading other characters from other guilds. But in my opinion, either you kind of want the stuff on or off. Let's see. So reduce lag. I've seen a couple of people recently ask about how high can I refine something? If you don't know a couple of lower tier items, you can only refine to 10 rather than 15, for instance. So in order to find out how much something can be refined, you can actually check the item itself if it has some kind of refinement on it, as a quick way to see it. So you see it kind of shows the equipment level, item type, and it says 10 out of 15, for instance, on my static shield. Same with my stone buckler. That says 6 out of 15. And you'll also see kind of the damage reduction that it's doing based on its refine level. That's a really quick way to do it if, let's see, I believe also when you talk to the, I can't talk to my worktop. Okay, so that's enhancement, this is refining. So for instance, for stone buckler, let's see. Oh, here it is. So on the left-hand side, actually, am I covering it? Yes, I am. 1 second. So you can see this item is good. I can refine it to 15. Right there. Same if I go to Comet, Endurance. Let's see. So shoes is an example of something that can only go to 10. It's an item that cannot even be refined past 10. Actually, I'm going to keep this off for a second because I'm going to show something else I think my avatar will cover. So another quick thing about enhancement is if you don't know, for instance, what a certain slot is able to not enhancement, enchantment. All these names are very similar. So for enchantment, if you don't know what a slot gives or the possibilities, there is a little info marker on the bottom. And it'll show you the lowest values, the highest values they can get up to. And it will also show you what type of fourth enchants that are available on that slot. And kind of the lowest rolls, yeah, so it shows you like the lowest, like if you get a 1 or a 4, for instance, for a fourth enchant. So this is a tail. So if we look at, for instance, an accessory, you're going to see other stuff is available and, you know, a different set of values, usually. You can get up to, let's say, 25 resist on an accessory. Let's see. Oh no, I'm sorry. So it's, so as an example, with this, rather, it has to be in the blue text. My apologies. So basically on my chest piece, the blue means it can roll that. And to go back to that accessory, what it's showing you is that it can't roll this at all, but it can roll this other stuff. So you cannot get a healing increase on an accessory. However, you can get a healing increase on a headpiece, for instance. Okay. So let's see what else we gotta go over. So if you're still following along, so there is a really cool way to kind of buy stuff on the fly. If you have the blueprint in your inventory, let's see, I don't think I even have any right now. I do not, but it doesn't matter because you could do it from the handbook. So let's say you're in Oracle, for instance, Oracle, if you have to rezone, if you have to go back to your Kafra storage and rezone, you're going to be stuck outside. You can't rejoin your group in group content like Oracle. But you ran out of honey, or you ran out of royal jelly. You know, it's not a good time. But if you choose, for instance, a blueprint from your handbook, such as Little Tree Hat, and you choose to craft headwear, and you go to fast buy, you can choose what you want to buy. So let's say you want to buy these royal jellies. You're gonna just get them right into your inventory without going to the exchange, without going to Kafra. I'm gonna look for Ramen Hat real quick. Ramen Hat has a lot of honey to purchase. If I can locate it. Let's see real quick. Let's go ahead. You know, and you can search around, like, let's see, what does this give? Let's say you need pearls, you know, you need star crumb for something. I mean, the best way to utilize this is for stuff that you need to just use, you know, on the fly. If you're at, here we go. So we go to craft ramen hat. Let's see, you can see what's on the bottom here, that it wants, you know, that you can buy. And remember to choose. You always have to remember to check mark, you know, these items that you want to buy and you don't want to buy because you don't want to be stuck. Let's see how much this is. Yeah, so you don't want to spend 3.2 million when you're only trying to spend, you know, 200k trying to get this much stuff. You know, you buy it, it acts just like the exchange. You have a whole bunch more honey. You know, it will only buy up to, for instance, that amount. So the blueprint wants 93. So as you can see, it made the difference of what I was missing. So that's why Ramen Hat's a really good one, especially for honey. Because it'll just make up that difference. It also does work if you have the blueprint in your inventory the same way. It just simply won't try to attempt to purchase the blueprint. Back when they added EP5, we finally got the male, what's it called? Oh no, I'm sorry, back when EP6 dropped. We finally got the male button removed. And then they added this crazy little eyeball. And we started raging. Let's see, I don't even think it'll show up in housing. It will not show up in housing. So it actually won't show up everywhere, which is the first thing to know. So you do see it and sometimes you don't see it. It is shut off in certain areas, I think certain dungeons as well. Probably to not give an unfair advantage of, you know, looking around. I suppose I can only speculate here. But what it does is it helps you move the camera around different angles. So you can go like this and move around. You know, but just like it does choose certain areas to allow you to do it, you know, I guess a comparison would be like in Warcraft, if you have the ability to fly, you know, you can't fly everywhere because it doesn't want you seeing certain areas or maybe things at certain angles because it's simply, the zone was not designed that way. But it is a way to kind of look around, you know, if you choose to zone out a little bit, you know, maybe you're trying to get like kind of an idea of what's going on in an area or check a different angle of the town. It's still pretty nice. I did hear that Europe did get kind of like this camera eyeball thing, but they did not get the ability to hide it. I couldn't tell you why for the life of me. It's actually kind of terrible. But yeah, if you turn it off, you'll simply go back to the default camera area. And let's see. I went over a lot of the stuff that I kind of want to go over already. Kind of important stuff. There's a couple of fun things that they did add that were kind of nice surprises. These were added actually in EP5. So let's see. One thing they added is that if you have the ability to sit down elegantly whenever you use a camera, and you kind of pop back up, you're going to see certain things that will allow you to sit down elegantly. So we'll see if any buildings around here have it. Probably not. probably closer, I believe, to... Yeah, here we go. Sitting down elegantly is another adventure skill. It's kind of a fun vanity skill. There's nothing really important about it, to be honest. They added this ability to do these different angles. So if you're trying to get like a different shot of an area, you can click up here. Scene 4, scene 5. You know, this is the default scene 1. And just go all the way back. Let's see something. If you do that, you go into first person mode. Go like that, kind of like if you're going either selfie mode or not selfie mode with your actual camera. They added, let's see, you can also do emotes in here. Straight in the screen, rather than going all the way out, choosing emote, and going back to camera. Oh yeah, something I did forget to talk about is favorites can also be used with emojis. This is great for guild quest, like for instance the blow kiss one. You kind of get to it really easily. Maybe there's a couple of emotes that you always like to use. You can put them right in front, and it'll show up right on the first tab. Let's see. Oh, and they did add these kind of filters, kind of like Instagram filters. You can actually go fully black and white. Some of these don't seem to show up as much as others. Could be the zone, I'm not too sure. Maybe, let's see. Oh, maybe because of effect. Let's check this. There we go. So it seems like you do need effect on to show some of these filters. Depth of focus kind of like it gives a blur out of, you know, of everything outside of the middle, which that's pretty nice. There was a way to there was a way to bring your Kafra out. I think it's an adventure skill, now that I think about it. I'm gonna put this on my bar. So it's Promise of Sun and Moon. Let's see. And you bring out your Kafra that you have chosen as your favorite. And you can also hand in hand them as well. Oh, there it is. Okay, 1 second. Alright, so when you do have your Kafra, you actually get a whole new bubble, which, hold on 1 second. That you can choose to, you can choose them to do emotes. Kind of cute way to get little, you know, cute shots, videos, maybe with you and your guild mates. Let's see, scenes, add Kafra. Missing something. Ah, yes. So there's certain things you can do, for instance, cooking, I think is the best example. There is an animation involved with cooking. However, you don't have to have it on. You could choose to play the video or not play the video. Another example is for the cat litter box. Is, you know, every time you roll or even when you roll the gacha, if you don't want to choose the animations, you always want to look for kind of this little star wand bubble. and then choose to put it on or off. You could choose to play the video. So when you cook, insert and cook. Or if you choose to turn it off, next time you cook, it's going to simply be instant. Another thing with, because I mentioned the Big Cat litter box, which if you have that in your guild, they did add a really cool button called the invest button. So I'm going to play that video. So for instance, I have about 3k beads. Instead of rolling, you know, a couple of times, if I click invest, it's going to roll everything at the same time. You know, it's just a really good little time saver. This also works, for instance, while it's not invest, if you're going to do your prayer packs, and you see kind of it allows you to put one at a time, or if you want to use all your prayer packs at the same time, there's a second button to the right that allows you to simply use all your prayer packs at once. And let's see. Just gotta double check my notes real quick. I think I pretty much went everything over, you know, what I wanted to go over. So I hope everyone learned a little something to how to get around the game a bit easier than normal. It is something that I think could benefit newer players or veterans. If you have any cool tips and tricks just like this, you know, feel free to let me know. Maybe I'll add it to like a YouTube video or something at a later point. You know, thanks so much for joining me today. And, you know, I'll see you all next time.